Welcome to Well, Yes, where science meets wellness trends. I'm Walter, co-founder at Ham.
I'm Sarah Greenfield, functional medicine dietitian.
Okay, and today we are launching into a new year with a powerful topic, habit stacking. And that's something I learned about a few years back. There's actually a lot of science behind this, but the idea is basically it's a tool that helps us turn intentions like eat better, move more, sleep earlier into routines that truly stick with us. So it's like changing your habits in a gradual way as opposed to waking up on January 1st and saying, okay, I am going to be this 3 times a week gym goer. I only eat healthy, and I will run a marathon by July. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like taking your existing habits and like layering on top new ones that you want to incorporate into your day to day. And that really works. So, why don't we start with a few facts about habit stacking? Fact one, habit stacking involves attaching a new habit to one you already do consistently. So the one you have, you use it almost like as a ladder to the new habit that you would like to, build. Second, fact two, habit formation relies on repetition as stable context over time. So for example, if you do it once, that's great. If you do it twice, that's even better. But if you start really incorporating something into your daily or weekly routines, that's when it becomes a true habit. And in fact, three, habit stacking doesn't require massive lifestyle changes. And that's what I love most about this. It requires you to slowly but surely work towards progress. So it's all about progress over perfection. And I'm a huge fan of that mantra. Even here at work, we always say, you know what? We're making progress better 90% than 100%. So let's just move on, basically. So I'm a big fan of this, and it really helps you, um, incorporate those better habits into your daily routines or weekly routines. And there's ways of like, obviously looking at research here, but that's really the best way to do it. So what do we exactly mean by habit stacking? Sarah, do you want to unpack this a little bit for me?
Yeah, I like to use this as a tool frequently in my private practice with clients because it's so powerful. And instead of putting more things on your to-do list that are new, that are overwhelming, that are challenging, which is really hard when you're looking at making dietary changes or managing stress, I love the idea of habit stacking because it allows you to take something like you had mentioned that you're already doing and it makes this shift and this change less perceptible. It's just more integrated into your day to day. So, a really good example of that, or what I like to tell people, is something like brushing your teeth. That's
Hmm.
something we do without thinking about it in the morning and at night. And that's a habit. You don't have to be like, oh gosh, I have to brush my teeth. And we don't have that conversation. It's just you do it. And so if we stack or add a habit behind that, that triggers it or it gives us that cue that, okay, when I brush my teeth, I do 10 jumping jacks. Whatever your habit's going to be, you can stack it on there and it's just it's easier because you don't have to remember one more thing to do. You already have that cue in place that initiates the behavior.
Yeah, 100%. And that's really the concept behind it. And what I like about it, it's so simple but yet so powerful. And I think that's really and it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to
Yeah.
pay for somebody to help you with this. You need no technology. And it's literally something that's right there, and it's all based on psychology. Um, Tell me a little bit like why this is especially now, given where we are at the beginning of the year.
I think when we're looking at, okay, I reviewed 2025 and I'm looking forward to 2026, and these are the things that I want to embody, or these are the things that I want to change. If we can add something in and get a really small win, that's where we're going to have more momentum. And when you do something and you show up for yourself and you say, okay, I want to commit to something that's easy and something that's small and achievable, then we have this boost in self confidence because we showed up, we executed on what we had intended. And now we're in this place of getting a dopamine hit from that activity being completed. And when we start small, it doesn't have to be this massive, like, I need to change my entire life. To your point, it can be small and it can be this 1% shift. And that's where I always love to focus on these like tiny little shifts. Because if you, let's say you have an uncomfortable pillow and you're getting neck pain because of it, and now it's hurting your back, and now you're not sleeping. and you change your pillow and you notice, okay, I have a different pillow and now my neck is loosening up and now my back feels a little bit better and now I'm sleeping. And then all of a sudden you have 3 months of really solid sleep from this tiny little 1% shift. It makes a huge difference as it compounds over time. So anything that changes, like really, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna go on a juice fast and stop eating all carbohydrates and go on a keto diet and do things that are extreme, we have less of a likelihood of sticking with it versus a 1% shift, like 10 jumping jacks after I brush my teeth. Or when I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth and then I have water with a lemon or minerals or something where we're focused on hydration. It's just a more sustainable way of integrating change into our day to day.
Yeah, I'm totally on board. So it's these small changes that help us ultimately get to a better place as opposed to this complete overnight overhaul that
Yeah.
never leads to sustainable practices. Can you
And
explain it?
I was just going to say that's another reason I love supplements is because they're this very low-hanging fruit in the sense that they're easy to integrate. So a cue for taking a supplement can be after I eat breakfast, I take my supplements. And I've always found that when people start there, it's easy to integrate. And then you start to see these changes over time. And it's encouraging and it helps us move forward in a healing journey. And it's a really good cue and reminder. And you can put a bottle right on your kitchen counter and you're like, oh yeah, I'm committed to decreasing my bloating by taking this digestive enzyme. And it's just a really beautiful way to kind of cue that new habit or that new action.
Yeah, like setting these like little reminders out there, like putting them on post-its or as you said, like putting your supplements.
Yeah, we're visual, right? Like if you can modify your environment and set it up in a way that reminds you, like, okay, yeah, this is what I do. Like I'm just looking around at my desk and I'm like, I have my my karma spray. Like I just love smells and it, helps to relax my nervous system. I have a candle. I have a little thing that my kid made me. And when we kind of surround ourselves in those places where we're supporting our nervous system and reminding ourselves of the habits we want to integrate, it's a really helpful way to do it without having it be this like, ugh, and now I have to do this.
Well, you mentioned your sense, you mentioned your brain as well. Like, can you explain a little bit what's going on here in the brain specifically when we habit stack?
So we have kind of these two brain systems that are guiding behaviors, and that's the stimulus response and a goal directed system. So these are the two things that our brain is doing when we're going through different behaviors. And
Mhm.
so the goal with habit stacking is to really try and shift these new habits under that stimulus response system so we're not having to think about it, right? Like the whole thing is like if we don't have to mentally think about it and it's just queued up and we do it automatically, it's a lot easier to stick with it. So we're like
Interesting.
hacking, not hacking, but like working with our brain and the way it's set up to create less effort to do the things that we know are important for us.
Got it. So we're basically paving the way in
Yeah.
our brain almost to, incorporate these things without even thinking about them. So almost like we're
Yeah.
automating.
And making it easier because it takes time to build the memory or what we call a neural pathway to a certain habit. So consistency and repetition is important so that we can lay down that new neural pathway. And I like the analogy that when you're starting a new habit, you don't have that direct link to your brain yet. You have to build it. So it's like hacking through an overgrown path that has vines and you need a machete and you have to clear it out and there's no really clear way to do it, but you're practicing and you're building that out versus something that you already know how to do is like a 7-lane super highway where you just automatically know how to do it. But when we're incorporating new things or trying new things, we have to give ourselves that time and space to build out that new neural pathway, which then will become like a highway and it will become very easy. And so that habit stacking is a really great way to take some of the effort that it takes to build that neural pathway off your plate and just get it so it's consistent and that will be built easily.
Yeah, and it really means like you require less willpower, really, because I mean, willpower is exhausting, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, like, you really, okay. I gotta stick to something. It puts more pressure on you, and
Yeah. And it's finite. There's not endless amounts of willpower. It takes a lot of energy and brain power to be like, okay, I have to muster up the energy to it's something that we need to make super easy so it becomes sustainable.
yeah, and we're building that, as you refer to this superhighway on an existing road. So
Yeah.
like maybe it was like a small path before, and now we're making it just better and faster, more efficient.
Yeah.
And we drive in the direction where we ultimately want to go. I think that's important as well, without making
Yeah.
sort of like mental drain on us. And that is a really, really good tip. I really like that. Um, I have a question for you. Is it really realistic for everyone just to use habit stacking and get to the goal, although it could feel potentially quite difficult or forced at first?
One of the most important things to understand when you're starting a journey of health or change or growth is that it's going to be uncomfortable. And when we understand that inherently change is uncomfortable and we can make space for that and we can allow for that, it gives us a lot more capacity to move through things. So, knowing that, okay, I'm going to change the way I eat, I'm going to be more focused on my health, I'm going to show up for myself, I'm going to work out, whatever it is that's coming up for you in the beginning of this year as you're thinking about 2026, give yourself grace. That's like the most important is really like just be gentle on yourself and know that it's going to be uncomfortable. And so, are you going to need more time to process the discomfort or whatever comes up as you're moving through this new habit? And just know that that's part of it. I think that's always just a good reminder is like, it's going to be hard. It's hard for me when I start a new habit. I feel like an idiot. My body doesn't like it. My ego is like, stop immediately of this new thing. It's not good for us. It doesn't feel good and it's not going to feel good. So if we can start with that, the opportunity for success is a lot higher.
And I would maybe mention as well, small steps in the right direction are much more powerful than quantum leaps on day one and then no leaps whatsoever thereafter. So it's these small steps. It's almost like when you climb a mountain. You don't climb a mountain in one go, right? You really think about, okay, we have like different stages here. There's a first, stage to
Yeah.
the climb. You pace yourself too. You never, I don't know if you've ever been like my mom, she walks a lot in the mountains and I walk a lot with her. And like it's almost like everybody that goes out there saying, this elderly lady, she can't walk that much, etc. And she's quite slow to begin with, but she paces herself and she has a consistent pace. And at the end of the day, she's actually the one reaching the goal first, really, because she just paced herself while everybody else exhausts themselves on the very first stage of the mountain climb. So
Yes.
in
It's
my
like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
it really is. And it can also be a long walk, right? It doesn't have to be a
Mhm.
marathon either. So all I'm saying, small steps,
Yeah.
practice well over and over time, and attach to existing habits. And that's really, really key here. You already mentioned brushing your teeth. That's a really good one. Are there any other moments in your day you think are good to attach a new habit to?
I focus a lot on helping people regulate their nervous system because it's so correlated to digestive imbalances.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at, all right, what does somebody do every single day without thinking about it? And one of the easiest ones is checking your email. So every time you check your email, afterwards or before, just, start with 3 deep breaths and ground your body and regulate your nervous system. Or if you're doing breath work, you could do it then, or if you're doing meditation, but use that email checking as a way to cue a new habit. Sometimes you can do it as like if you're closing your laptop or if you're walking away from your computer, that could be another time to do it. When you pick up your phone and open a social media app, that's another time that you could potentially cue in a new habit. So just think about things that you do kind of throughout your day
Hmm.
and then stack away.
Okay, awesome. That's super helpful. Yeah, I mean, there's so many moments throughout the day that don't feel like a chore, right? Like having a coffee,
Yeah.
for example, or maybe when it's time to go to bed, what are you doing in the evening? And I like how you're touching um habits to those things that we automatically do, like checking your email or looking at social media. I think that's a very, very good tip. And again, there's a lot of science behind that. This is really the best way of introducing a new habit by layering it on to the existing ones.
Yeah.
Um, are there any situations where habit sticking could fail or even backfire?
If you try and take on too many, like I
Mhm.
always have this conversation with my husband, just because something is good doesn't mean that more of it is better. And when we're looking at integrating new habits, you had mentioned this. It's starting small. It's doing something where we can feel that we've achieved success. So maybe starting with one or two new habits to cue could be a good place to start versus, oh, I'm going to cue off everything that I do throughout the day. That's just going to overwhelm us and ultimately we're going to shut down. So keeping it small, keeping it simple to start out, and then seeing how it goes. And you can always build more habits in as you get more comfortable with the ones you've started.
Yeah, keep it simple. I mean, that's
Yeah,
always, isn't it always the best advice at the end of the day? Uh,
always
when
with
it
everything.
comes to food, to your relationships, to everything, just keep it simple, honestly. It's
It's
like,
simple. Maybe not building rockets. I feel like that would be one when you want to be more complex, but life wise, yes.
yeah, but I mean, even I would imagine there's a simplicity truth as well when it
Yeah.
rocket building. Who knows, right? Who knows? Okay. So to those listening, what are the practical steps here one takes to get started? So walk me through this.
Okay. So what I would do, I'm a big a fan of paper, paper and a pencil or a pen. I would go through, take out a piece of paper and just identify your existing habits, things that you don't think about doing every day and list those out. So like we talked about brushing your teeth, maybe you make coffee, getting dressed, getting in a car. Those are things that you just do. List those out. And then choose one small habit to add on to that. Make it small, make it achievable, make it low effort, and see where you can stack that and stack consciously and specifically. Look at the habits, pick one of the ones you want to add and stack it in there and give it a week or two to try it out and see how it goes without judgment. I talked about discomfort. I talked about when we try new things, it makes us very uncomfortable and we can want to not feel stupid or not feel like the effort's worth it, but give yourself time. That's really important as well. Give yourself time to move through that discomfort, to move through all the monkey mind
Hmm.
noises that come up and go through it.
Yeah, I think this is like very helpful. And I think there's a bit of research around like time and the duration it takes as well. They say, this has been researched, that it takes about 21 days to incorporate a new tiny habit into your routine. So like practicing something for a 3-week period is really, really beneficial,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to these small habits that you're layering on to the existing ones. That's really helpful. Um, and once you have done this, it starts to feel natural, right? It's like no longer
Yeah.
this mental drain and you no longer beat yourself up if something is off, etc. So I just think it is so powerful.
When it comes to habits, consistency, repetition, and context are really, really important.
Cool. Um, are there any benefits that people may not know about habit stacking that we should call out?
It reduces your mental load and something called decision fatigue. The less
Mhm.
you have to think about something, the less you have to be like, oh gosh, this has to go on my to do list. And the more things are fluid and automatic, the easier it is to move throughout your day. I like to think about Steve Jobs in this context, where he wore the same thing every single day because that was one less decision that he had to make. So when you're reducing that decision making amount, it's easier to, you just don't get so loaded down or overwhelmed. So it's really important to make these habits fluid and not being like, okay, I have to think about this.
And ultimately, there's ways of doing things, right? And some things are just like patterns we adopted because of certain circumstances, and doesn't mean that has to be a fate forever. And think this is maybe a bit more philosophical, but adopting habits you truly want to and that feel right to you is also a great way of expressing your true identity. And I think there's a beauty
Mm.
to that too. Almost like becoming the person you want to be, right? And like not that, circumstances forced upon you. And I think that's something to keep in mind as well. There's something really fulfilling. And I think you start looking in the mirror in a different way too when you adapt these things. And like there's an element of like, body posture and like there's a fire in your eyes basically that gets lit up. And I think it's just nice to connect with that and like, really bringing your body in harmony with where you think you want to be, who you are, and all that. So I do think identity is also part of the conversation here almost.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful reflection. I love that.
And it's also sustainable at the end of the day, right? Of like, we're
Yeah.
not telling people to reinvent themselves. We're just telling, hey, work towards the progress you want to make, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there's just so much beauty to it. And what I really love the most about habit stacking, it is truly powerful. Well, when done right, it is extremely effective and it doesn't cost you anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things in the health and wellness space that can really move the needle. And like you said, it is free.
All right, looking ahead,
Yeah.
let's talk about like why this is an interesting. I have a question on this myself, really. Like, why is it that come January 1st, everybody is having suddenly these ideas or New Year's resolution? And why do you think that actually adopting habit stacking or new habits during this time is a good thing?
I think a lot of times people will get motivated. I mean, new year, new opportunity, fresh start. We can be nice to ourselves. It's a really beautiful initiation into change. And I think oftentimes what I see happen is people create these really big goals where it's like, okay, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to work out, but we don't make those actionable or small enough to be achievable. Like weight loss is a big goal. There's a lot layered in there. Even getting to the gym sometimes can be a big goal when you're just like, I want to work out. And so when we can go through that activity where you're looking at your habits and looking at what you want to change, then you have more quantifiable data and you can say, all right, instead of this big thing that doesn't have really a measurable outcome, I can put these small pieces into my day to day. And that's where it becomes super powerful. And that's where you see people have more consistency and stick with their goals.
And I just want to call something out. I just want to remind everyone that treat every day like January 1st, right? It doesn't mean because you haven't started in January and you haven't stuck to something you wanted to that you can't do throughout the year. I know there's this collective idea after the holidays. Everybody's like, okay, this is a new year, right? This mindset of like something new is ahead of us. That happens every day. We happen to call it January 1st of the year and we're changing the calendar year. And that's all fine. But it does not mean because we adopted a certain calendar that you can't do this in February, March, April, whenever you want. For you, the
Yeah.
opportunity is always there in front of you. And when done right, you can build on your existing habits whenever you want. Just keep that in mind. Having said that, I think there's like this energy in the air, right? Where everybody is like, the gyms are packed and it's kind of fun how everybody's like leaning into it. It's fun to be part of that too. But that doesn't mean that you have to only this first month or two or three of the year to introduce new healthy habits into your life. I just want to call that out as well.
I love that.
Um,
I love you could think about it too, like on a business cycle and every quarter do a reflection on where you've been, where you want to go. I think that's like giving yourself more than just January 1st. And it's super interesting having a private practice and working with clients. I think people would assume that January is my busiest time, and it's not. My busiest month is March. And I think that's the case because people are very like amped up on all their resolutions and all the things that they're going to do. And then by March, everyone's kind of like, okay, this isn't working. I need to really learn how to create sustainability. And that's, where I teach my clients habit stacking and different ways of getting into their bodies. So it's just interesting to see that play out every year. So hopefully now that we have this podcast, there will be more attention to detail and really more sustainable changes.
yeah, come see Sarah now. That's all I have to say. She's
Yeah, I'm open January.
All right, let's do our well yeses and well nos for this episode. What are yours, Sarah?
My big, big well, yes, is being kind to yourself, being okay in discomfort. And one of the things I always love to say to my kid, and I think we can learn a lot about the way we speak to children, I always tell him, you can do hard things. And I think that's a really important mantra as you're making change is that you can do hard things. So that's my well, yes. And my well, no is saying I will have the willpower to just create this life that I want and to be the person I want because willpower is finite.
That's very profound. I love that.
Mm.
Love it. My well, yes is yeah. I mean, look, I'm gonna just lean into this episode really and say habit stacking. It truly works. There's good science behind it. It worked for myself. It seems to have worked for many others too. There's endless research, so definitely a big thumbs up right there. And my well no is like, as I said, this overloading yourself with like new habits in one go just doesn't work. I've never met anybody who reinvented themselves completely over time. But you know, those people that make true transformation, I don't know if you noticed that as well. Yes, you know, in your life and with friends around, they make these gradual changes and suddenly you're like, wow,
Yeah.
you see these people that just really, you know, reinvented themselves, but in a gradual way, and you don't notice it because it's subtle over time, but then suddenly you're like, wow, this is really impressive and like respect to you for that. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of just, you know, working on it in a gradual way. All right. Let's move on to our RD rapid fire. The best habits for habit stacking. That's a good one. You know how this goes on a scale of 1 to 10. Drinking a full glass of water after brushing your teeth in the morning.
10,
Doing 2 minutes of mobility exercise after making your morning coffee.
8,
Writing one thing you're grateful for immediately after dinner.
10,
Taking a short walk after getting home or before dinner.
9,
Doing a 1 minute deep breathing or mindfulness exercise after turning off your computer.
10,
Daily journaling.
5,
Expressing gratitude when you wake up in the morning.
9,
Making your bed every day.
6,
Taking your supplements daily.
10.
Love that. All right, Sarah, this was super, super helpful. And I really enjoyed this conversation because we really spoke about something that we all think about this time of the year. And there are some really great tools out there. If you like this episode, drop us a comment, ask any questions, please share, like, follow. We do appreciate it. And as always, I want to thank everyone who helped with this episode here. Our producer Brooke and our production assistant Fatima. Sarah, it was great to see you or talk to you.